Two-time Cy Young Award winner and recent world champion Blake Snell has made some comments about throwing weighted baseballs and velocity training. As a physical therapist, as a sport performance coach, as someone that helps people throw harder, and as Blake's favorite cousin, I think I should provide a little bit of context and nuance to some of his statements, quiet the haters down a little bit, while also providing a nice little clinical commentary.
When it comes to like velocity development, I know that's like the biggest thing. Kids are always trying to gain velo. Where are you on that like spectrum of like being important? Or
don't chase velo, don't throw weighted balls as hard as you can against the net with a crow hop. That's so dumb.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with chasing velo, especially if you're a developed athlete, your growth plates are closed, you're a full-grown adult. There's nothing wrong with chasing velo. If you're a kid, things are probably a little different. I think that is the lens that Blake is looking at this question through. As a coach, Blake predominantly works with, kids between the ages of 12 and 16 who are not adults. And I think that context is important when we're thinking about Blake's answer to this question. Because inherently there's nothing wrong with chasing velocity, and a lot of the things that Blake says in this video, it's like improving your mechanics and focusing on consistency, will also improve your velocity. If you are chasing mechanical proficiency, you are also chasing velocity.
Now you don't pitch on a crow hop throwing the ball, a weighted ball, into a net.
We're kind of missing the forest through the trees here. Doing pull downs, doing crow hops, throwing plyo balls, or even a regular baseball hard off of a run up, the purpose is to acclimate the body to moving quickly, to separating faster, to moving quicker, to rotating faster, to getting the arm speed up higher, and allowing the body to get used to that high velocity. Having better sequencing and having your body used to moving faster and throwing harder and rotating quicker under greater separation can be significantly beneficial for not just your velocity development, but also your mechanics, which is kind of the golden point that Blake is making in this video of prioritizing mechanical efficiency. Just because you're not pitching from a pull down doesn't mean that those things aren't beneficial or valuable in your development of mechanical fluidity as a throwing athlete.
To be perfect in the way that you throw the ball and locating it, playing good catch. Velo comes off of consistency of doing the same thing over and over.
This is one of the most valid things Blake said in this entire interview. As you build technical proficiency, you are inherently going to become more efficient at it. And the more efficient you are, the harder you're going to be able to throw when it comes to pitching. If you look at any of the work that was done by Charlie Francis with sprinters, operating at 95, 97% of your best efforts at a minimum and doing that over and over and over again is how you drive adaptations in these high velocity, ballistic, violent movements like sprinting, jumping, and throwing a ball or a javelin or whatever. So doing something over and over and over again with good technical proficiency at a very high threshold of your best efforts is how you get better at that thing and how you throw harder or move faster.
As you get stronger, you work out, you run to build endurance. As you do all of that, your body comes into its own, and then your mechanics get cleaner, your body trusts it more, and you're able to throw harder.
This is also facts. As a quick anecdote, when I was in high school, I wasn't the best baseball player, but I was a pretty good pitcher, and I threw pretty hard for how small I am. I had, touched the 80s pretty regularly. Would sit usually like high 70s. Throughout college and grad school, I did a lot of lifting. It was mostly powerlifting, which isn't even the best style of lifting for improving athletic performance. Like, I was pretty stiff. I just got really strong. I wasn't doing power cleans and sprinting. I was just powerlifting. In grad school, I decided to come back and play men's league one year. I ramped up, started throwing bullpens, and then in my first bullpen with my team, I threw the hardest I'd ever thrown in my life. I touched 86 twice. I was sitting in the low 80s. Literally all I did was get stronger. I wasn't even training to be a better athlete. All I did was improve my ability to produce force. And all of a sudden, I was throwing significantly harder with arguably worse mechanics. There's a lot of validity in quite literally just becoming a better athlete and hitting the weight room and then improving your mechanics and getting better at your sport and letting those two things coalesce into you throwing harder. That being said, I don't think we need to live in this world where we demonize throwing weighted balls. I use weighted balls literally all the time for my college guys and my youth athletes, whether it's in a rehab context or in a velocity program. At the end of the day, a weighted ball is just a tool. A pull down is just a tool. If you really wanted to, you could hammer a nail down with a screwdriver, but it's probably not your best option. So understanding how to use these tools in a throwing program in the right context is likely going to lead to a lot of benefit so long as your workloads are balanced. Anyone playing in the MLB has like a bit of a genetic advantage. And that doesn't take away from any of the work that they've put in, because I grew up with Blake and I know that he's worked his ass off, especially when he was in the minors. He busted his ass for years and now he's a multi-time Cy Young winner and a world champion. That being said, it is a little easier to throw harder when you're 6'4", 6'5", and over 200 pounds. If you're a smaller dude like me or a JUCO guy, or even if you are as big as Blake and you just don't quite have the velocity, getting on a good velo program can do a lot. Getting into the weight room and becoming a better athlete can do a lot. And using these tools like a plyo ball or a pull down can do a lot. It's a little ironic because he talks a lot about improving your mechanics and becoming a more efficient thrower, and I use plyo balls all the time to do just that. Make people more efficient and better throwers. I don't think we need to live in a world where plyo balls are so demonized and things are so black and white. Throwing is very gray and nuanced. Blake understands that it's very nuanced, and you're just not going to get that nuance and that context in a 50-second Instagram clip that is designed for getting clicks and views. Blake's a coach. He works with kids. That's the context in which he's going to be answering this question. And I more or less agree with him. I don't think, a 12 or 14 or 16-year-old needs to be ripping heavy plyo ball pull down. It's probably not going to do a whole lot for them. And they'd be better off spending that time doing some power cleans and lifting some weights and doing some sprints and just becoming a better athlete. Oh, Blake hates weighted balls. And I don't think Blake hates weighted balls. I think Blake just has a very particular lens at which he's looking at this question through. And at the end of the day, if you sat down and had a conversation with him, he'd probably tell you that weighted balls are really good for certain drills and warming up and doing very particular things and eliciting certain adaptations or certain mechanical changes that we want to see in a throwing athlete. There's nothing wrong with taking a 225-gram ball and throwing it as hard as you can every once in a while, so long as it's on a well-periodized throwing program and your workloads are balanced. It's probably going to help you develop as a good thrower. And at the end of the day, we need to be good throwers before we're good pitchers. And people throw footballs and people throw javelins, and those things are a hell of a lot heavier than a baseball. So thinking that throwing a 225-gram ball or a 450-gram ball is all of a sudden going to completely blow your shit up is a little facetious, and I don't think that's what Blake is saying. That's the train that people are kind of hopping on after seeing this clip. This weighted ball discussion has been a dead horse for years, and I apologize for continuing to beat this dead horse. But at the end of the day, there are realities of training. There are tools that work really, really well, and just understanding how to implement these tools is important as a coach. I use weighted balls all the time, especially in rehab contexts. When we have a kid who has little league elbow, their inner elbow is pissed off. It's due to a lot of repetitive valgus torque at the elbow. One of the ways that we can limit and reduce that valgus torque is by using a weighted ball. By using a weighted ball, we constrain arm speed. And by constraining arm speed, we reduce the amount of torque that's being placed on the inner elbow. Less torque means less irritation on the inner elbow as we are building back up to get them back into playing games. Oh, Blake hates weighted balls. The Snells hate weighted balls. They don't hate weighted balls. They just don't want kids ripping pull downs with a 450-gram ball when they're 13 years old, which I think is a good take. That's good coaching. If you want to rip pull downs with a weighted ball, save it to when you're older. Then it can actually be beneficial for your development as an athlete once you've started to specialize as a thrower and as a pitcher. But as a kid, just play baseball and have fun and take some lessons and improve your mechanics and get proficient in the weight room. So then when you are going through puberty, you can take advantage of that window to improve your athletic capacity, raise your ceiling, and allow that to translate to the field. Don't worry about the nuances and all the granular nitty-gritty stuff until you're, a JUCO player trying to make it to the next level, or a D1 guy trying to go to the show, or a guy in the show just trying to get that extra edge. That's when those things really, really matter. At the end of the day, Blake has a point. I think it's just getting a little misconstrued. It's a 50-second Instagram clip. You're not going to get all the context and nuance that you need in order to understand where he's coming from, as well as the lens that I think Blake is answering this question through. Again, plyoballs are just a tool. Pull downs are just a tool. It's just knowing when and where and how to implement them appropriately.